Now the second objective of this chapter, find the intercept of a graph. Okay, now we can see from here, all right, when we talk about intercepts, okay, so they refer to this point. This is called the x-intercept, all right? The x-intercept is where the graph cross the x-axis. So we can see here, the graph cross the x-axis at this point, and also the other point is here. So we call this x-intercept. Okay, so this is x-intercept. And we can also see that, right, this one, okay, is another intercept. We call that y-intercept. Now, the reason why we call this y-intercept is because the graph crosses the y-axis at this point. Okay, so when the graph crosses the x-axis, we call this x-intercept. And when the curve crosses the y-axis, we call this y-intercept. Now, we can see from here, all right, when the graph crosses the x-axis, what is the value of y? Okay, the value of y is here, right? So the value of y is 0. So, okay, we know that for the x-intercept, the y should be 0. All right, and then for the y-intercept, what happened to the x? The x is, right, at this point, the x is 0. All right, so these 2 points, the y equals to 0 and the x equals to 0, become the very important indicator for us to look for the x-intercept and also the y-intercept. Okay, so now we know that for x-intercept, the y is 0. So the x-intercept is always in this form. A is a number, all right, and the y is always 0. And for the y-intercept, all right, it's always in this form. The x is always 0, and the y is actually a number. Now, it is possible that for a graph to have no intercept like this. Okay, now as you can see, the first one here, all right, the graph has no x-intercept. Okay, no x-intercept. All right, the graph has only one y-intercept. Right now, in some situation, the graph might have several intercepts. Okay, for example, for this graph, there are 3 x-intercepts, 1, 2, 3 x-intercepts, and only one y-intercept. All right, so for this one, how many y-intercept? 2. And how many x-intercept? 1. And for this graph, we can see here clearly that it has no intercepts at all. Okay, now how do we find the x and the y-intercepts when we are given an equation? Right, so y equals to x to the power of 3 minus 4x. How do we get the x-intercept and the y-intercept? Now first, for x-intercept, we know that the value of y should be 0, right? So we are going to substitute the 0 here. Therefore, we have x to the power of 3 minus 4x equals to 0. Okay, and from here, we actually factorize it. So we extract the x out. We have x squared minus 4 equals to 0. And after that, we factorize x squared minus 4. So when we factorize x squared minus 4, we get x plus 2, x minus 2, right? And from here, all right, we know that when the y is 0, the x is 0. All right, the x is 0. And x plus 2 is 0. So the x is negative 2. And x minus 2 is 0. So the x is 2. So we have how many x-intercepts are there? 3. Okay, the first one is 0, 0. The second one is negative 2, 0. And the third one is 2, 0. All right, so this is how we look for the x-intercept. Okay, right, so this is the solution. Now, how to find the y-intercept then? Right, to find the y-intercept, right, we know that the x is 0. So we substitute into the equation. So we have y equals to x to the power of 3 minus 4x. And from here, we can get the y is 0. And therefore, 0, 0, this is the y-intercept. Okay. So this is the proper solution. All right, now if you are able to sketch the graph, right, you will find that, all right, this is the graph for the equation y equals to x to the power of 3 minus 4x. All right, so we have 3 x-intercepts and 1 y-intercept. All right, so this is how we look for the intercepts for the equation.